Again, everybody, it's Harry Boxer, the technical trader at thetechtrader.com. It's Saturday, the 24th of July, and this is the weekend webinar. Interesting market, to say the least. Poor technicals, strong markets, individual stocks breaking out, some breaking down. We have a list of longs and shorts to show you. Certainly an examination of what's going on with obviously new all-time highs. Look at that last week. Last 4 days in a row. Basically, the market went from Monday's low of 42.33 to Friday's high of 44.15. About 180 points on the S&P 500. That's huge. About 4.5%. And the closing near the highs at 44.11.79 going away. That's a new all-time high. Is the NASDAQ 100 confirming? Certainly is. 4 days in a row. And a breakout above the prior highs right there. Closing at 15,111.79. About 14 points off the high, but still at the very high end of the range. Fantastic chart with good on-balance volume as well on both exchanges. Now, are the transportations and small cap stocks confirming? Well, not yet. Take a look at the trailer here on the this is the transportation TRAN, the Dow 20. Just stuck its head out above resistance and closed at the highest level in 7 or 8 days, actually going back to July the 12th. So about a 2-week, almost a 2-week high on a closing basis. Now, if that's a V bottom and that's the right hand of the platform, the next target would be for a test somewhere up around, I would have to say, 15,100, 125 would be the Dow 20 transportation target, where secondary resistance lies at the declining tops line, the declining 50, and lateral price resistance. So that's a formidable area. If we break through that, we're off to the races. Small cap index is definitely struggling, but as you can see, we had a nice pop for 2 days and now the pullback. What I'm seeing now is that this declining tops line is in play. And until and if we get through that, small cap stocks continue to lag. With a lot of worry in the market, or at least somewhat of concern about where we're going, it's like they're coming out of small caps, although there may have been a selling climax on Monday of this week and then we see the bounce. Same thing goes with this and the transportation index. We get to 222 and then 224.5, we might see a retest of the highs at some point or better. But for now, no breakdown yet, although the long-term chart does show a trend line break. So the chance for the market to do this now, hold it right there. This is kind of a key moment, not only for the small caps and transportations, but for the market overall. The McClellan Oscillator, which got down to under 200, and that's a selling, buying opportunity usually down in this range. Look what that did. We got down to -203.58 on Monday, and by Friday we were +15. Not usually overbought, that's for sure. We have room to go up into the +100, 150 range before we get there. But that's a positive as well in terms of a follow-through early next week. Things can change quickly, however. The VIX has come down every day last week until Friday's bounce, but even then 1590 seems to be some sort of level across here for the last 3 weeks that held the market, that held this index anyway. But that's bullish because of the steep pullback. We'll see. We've had so many spike up, spike down, spike up, spike down again and again and again. It's hard to read this one. The percentage of stocks above their 40 dramatically improved from 18 to about 33, 34%, nearly doubling. But that kind of pop off the low usually means a trend extension. So I'll be looking for something even further up as the market extends itself. Hopefully the technicals improve because, as you know, Thursday and Friday with the market advancing, I was very concerned about the lack of breadth. Now you would think the McClellan Oscillator would reflect that. And it did to a certain extent, but we only went from -200 to barely flat. We're down to 11 at this point. -11 is the closing number. So we're certainly not overbought. Look at the components, and you can see that Apple, massive reversal. Now, this is a bad bar from what I was told. So if I go like that and eliminate that, There you go. Then you'll see the true pattern. Apple did not have a spike. What it did was it came down Monday to test this trend line. Bounced sharply, and then it's up near the all-time high set just a week and a half ago when Apple hit 150 even. So that's your next target through 150, 155, 158 are targets. Amazon rebounded smartly, but still, this is your point of stopping. And if they get under 3,500, I think the market itself has a problem. But right now, Amazon looks like a 1-2, and this is at 3-4, maybe. We'll see. I targeted Amazon 4,075 to 4,100 in that area, potentially, or more. Google, all-time highs. Google had a monster day up almost 90, closing at 26.94 with 27.05 being a new all-time high. As you can see, the way I've drawn these lines. The projection would be for an extension to 28, 30, 50 zone, at least. Netflix, not so hot, but it did bounce Friday. Nevertheless, it was down all week. And I'm not liking the way this is acting overall. This has been going sideways for a year in a trading range between, say, 455.60 and 560.65 in that area, 100-point range. So we'll see if Friday's reversal was meaningful. It was engulfing. Microsoft new all-time highs, almost 300, folks. Almost 290, folks. 289.99. But you can see if it just follows this line, 315 is my target. Nvidia, which got bombed, came back. When I say bombed, look at that rollover. Look where it held, right at price support and 50-day moving average. That is 100% stop on the 178 on Nvidia. But now with up near resistance, if it should get above Thursday's high, call it 198.99, we should see 207.8 and then 220, 30, 40, whatever. Bottom line is powerful chart. Big day for Facebook. Look at the last 4 days. 334 to 375, 40 points. Breaking through a triple top. Holding at the 50, not far from the trend line. Right now, I would say this projects to at least 400. Haven't looked at Tesla in a few days, and you can see Tesla, and that's because it really hasn't had much volatility and momentum. Long wedge forming that if it breaks out above this level, this is the key for Tesla, above 695, rock and roll time for 100 points or more, maybe two. Any move under Tesla, 620, see you later. 550, 460. But I wouldn't anticipate, not when the stock is right there above the moving average, above the trend line, above price support, slightly. So until we get a breakdown or breakout, this is a neutral territory for me. Let's look at some of the NASDAQ 100 leaders. They have a lot of stocks to look at. Let's take a look at them alphabetically. Always starting with Alcoa, and the reason I start with Alcoa, let me change to something here, folks. There you go. Well, for some reason, I don't have my volume on this chart. So I'll have to change that a little later on. So for now, let's just go with the price pattern. You can see that Alcoa has had a massive move off the March low of last year. It got up to resistance. It's been consolidating for 3 months, or 2.5 anyway. My targets are 45, 55, and 65 going forward, with a 100% stop under 32, roughly. AACG exploded. You know what, folks, will you hang on a second? I got to do something because this is not what I wanted to see. One moment. There you go. All right, excellent. Got my stuff back. Okay, so there's your Alcoa chart with volume included, and you can see why that's important low. I've included a new stock, ATA Creativity Global, because of the way it spiked on volume, pulled back, and then spiked again on Friday. Friday was an engulfing bar, and it traded up 25% in a day. So I'd be looking for like 5, 6.25 or more, maybe 6.5. Let's go with 5.5 and 6.5, 3/4 on extension if we get one. AEHR with a big explosive move has gone from 2 3/4 to 9 almost. I think the high was 860. And then the pullback, 5 and change. So this is a key support. But if it backs and fills here, your next targets are retest of 9 and then 11.5. AEMD popped out of a falling wedge after the big explosive move in June. Got up to resistance and backed off a little Friday, but it was up for 7 days in a row prior to that, or 6 days in a row. And so key support on this one right now is 467.8 area. We get to 6.25, this thing could be 7 or 8 again, quickly. Agrify, big move last week. We day traded on Thursday. It pulled back after the exit point was reached at 20 3/4. And then Friday, it actually got to my secondary target and near 22 at 21.88. It's got strong momentum, but it's at or just above the all-time high set after the IPO in February. Right now, it looks like it can extend, but it's overbought. Always be careful with stocks that have momentum that are overbought. They can extend, but they could turn on a dime. Alpha exploded back in June and went from about 3.5 up to 23 range, 22.50. It's come down and done a nice fib retracement and bounced to resistance and backed off. It's a V bottom with a right-handed extension. Keep an eye on this one. We don't want it on the 9 3/4, but if it runs, 13.5 and 16 are targets. AMC, well, you know, everyone loves to watch this stock or trade it. I don't get it, but it is what it is. 1, 2, 3, and maybe 4 is underway, which can have some more to go. But ultimately, if this wants to run some more, mid-60s retest would be doable. First target is 45.46. APA in the oil sector, I'm unhappy with what I'm seeing. A lot of oils are breaking down. We did get a little midweek bounce, and the stocks bounce as well, but be careful. At 19.5, this APA can fail, and if it does, it could roll over. It breaks through with volume, we're back on track. APT, with new mask mandates all over the country, or in some places anyway, particularly LA, this thing popped. They're a mask manufacturer from the wedge, and Friday broke out big time, gaining 13% or $1.19 on 5 million. Any follow through here, we're going to see 11.5 and 12 3/4. Arvin Industries on a major deal with Pfizer, popped on Thursday, followed through Friday and broke out. The all-time high is right there. We're through that. Now I'm looking for 110 and 125. ASO, beautiful chart, long-term pattern from the IPO in October. It's gone from 12 to 43. Now the pullback is orderly. And although there was some deterioration technically with a few volume bars on the downside, if they should take this back out again, particularly above 38.5, we could retest 43 and go to high 40s. ASTS put a swing on it after it popped and pulled back, and then popped again and pulled back to a lower low. I'm not sure it's still in play. I'll have to check, but I can see right now that the rebound has been a nice one from 10.13 to 12.34. Your next target's at 14, and I'd have to say 16.5. Now, folks, I just want to step in here and say that a lot of our swing trades of late have come down and taken out support levels. That's part of what we do here at DetectTrader.com, protect your capital. If you take small losses, you don't want to exacerbate them into large ones. So some of these swings may have been taken out, and some of them will reactivate. And this one looks like one of those that it wants to reactivate back up again. It's still in a 1, 2, 3, 4. So a fifth wave can take it to 16, even 20. Atosa, I wanted to show you this because so many people in the room are trading it, but I don't like it. Although the underlying technicals aren't terrible, that left shoulder, head, and right shoulder, and rising neckline that was broken And now this cluster here, oh, it looks like a potential bear flag or wedge. Just be careful about it. Now the bullish part, Friday was a possible engulfing bar, but it didn't close great. The underlying technicals show that resistance is right at 490 area. If we get through 5, this stock can take off again. And all it would be kind of a falling channel or pullback falling wedge right there. 3-wave corrective. Until then, though, I'm concerned, and this is questionable. AVXL with a monster run from the May low, it took it from 10 to 31.50, more than tripling it in about 5 weeks. Then came down in a 3-wave corrective and doesn't look bad. But being biotech in a what I would call a speculative risky market, if this does not get quickly above 23.20 and starts to roll over, I would stop this one under 20. It's close right now. Friday was not a good day for it, as it came from 23.10 down to 20.45 and closed at 21.09, up down 123 or 5.5%. So that's concerning, because if it failed there, this is the mini head and shoulders, and it fails there on a snapback to the neckline, then this goes going substantially lower, potentially to 19, 16, 15. I can see that gap being tested down at 17 if it cracks here. AXP, well, American Express had a big day on Friday. I just wanted to show it to you, a long-term pattern, quite bullish. With that breakout, you might see an extension to 190. BCRX, beautiful coil developed in 6 weeks, and it's popped out last week. Watch this one carefully. Through 17.75, looking for 20 and 24. Easy stop. Out under 15. BNTX, as you know, heavily involved with the COVID vaccines, and ever since the coil broke out in April at about 102.3, it's kind of crazy and nearly tripling to 280, 292 at the high on Friday. It's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-way move, and it's near resistance. I'd be careful up here, but the momentum could extend this one, even as high as 400. BTU, beautiful rising channel. A 1, 2, and this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we may need to consolidate a bit more, but should it take out 11.75, 80, it can go into the mid-teens. Calyx, I put a swing on it the day it broke out, and it immediately reversed and came down hard and took out stops. That's what stops are for, folks, but sometimes they reverse quickly, and this one did. This morning, on Monday morning, was under 40, and by Friday afternoon, it was 49.40. One closing 48.69. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tops in this range. Any move above that, particularly above 50, and this stock could rock into the mid to high 50s and low to mid 60s. CCJ, well, I wanted to show you this because it was a swing trade here, and it worked for a while, but it's broken intermediate trend line, and it's down to the major trend line. The bounce here has gotten to the declining tops line, and so until I see this one break back above 18, I'm negative on it. CEIX, the coal sector is very strong. Consolidated Energy, first with the big run up here. The longer term channel shows that. And that. You can see that it's a 1, 2, 3, and 4 is underway. Now, I don't know if 4 brings down or goes sideways or breaks out here, and that's enough. But then your immediate target would be 24. CLDX is the swing we gave you when it popped out in June of last year and consolidated, and then around that 11, 12 range, we put out a swing. Well, that worked out well. It went to the mid-20s within a few months and extended to the mid-40s this month, trading 46, 42 at the high. It's now flagging, may not be done. There's obviously a gap and double bottom support right there. So anything under 37.5 might be taken out. CLF in the steel infrastructure steel sector actually had come down to this trend line right there and tried to bounce. However, the intermediate trend line was broken with that breakdown. Now the snapback, sometimes there's a kiss back that fails. So be careful here. If this thing rolls over, it's going to get hammered. I wouldn't be shocked to see mid-teens on a pullback at 5 or 6 points if it doesn't get going soon. And the other side of the coin is this. We break through the 23 range, this thing could take off. CLFD, big day Friday, jumping 21% or 773 to 44 and closing at the high for the day going away. That's huge. A new all-time high. Usually when I see that, and I look at where the channels are, that's what it looks like now. I can see this running, and I mean running at least 10 to 12 points from here, mid-50s. Clear point, nice week up every day, going from 1583 to a close of 2045. And that was almost a high for the week as well, up 209 on Friday. However, double top resistance at 21.75, and then the bigger one at 23.5. So 21.75, 23.5 is what we'll be looking at next week. CLSD exploded in June, breaking out across the double, triple top resistance here, and then took out this double top and wedge, then popped to the target zone at 7.5 and pulled back, and now it's in a wedge. Based on its overall pattern, depends on whether it accelerates or not. It sure looks like the target might be 8.5 if it goes. First a retest of 6 and 7.25 or in order. Stop would be under 440. Criteo had a nice pop Friday out of the flag, but then reversed. Nevertheless, on a long-term basis, this is a swing that I put on back in October, 14 and change, and it made it into the mid-40s. CSIQ, worried about some of the solar stocks. This one in particular, last week's low of 36 would be my stopping point. Secondary support underneath that is 34, but 34, 36, if broken, could lead to 29. Careful. CYCN exploded Friday out of a falling wedge, and after the run up and pullback, it now looks like it might want to challenge resistance and at the prior high at 485. Then I have a target of 5.25. So that 485, 5.25 is the first target. Second target is 697. CYTK exploded on Monday and consolidated the rest of the week. Resistance certainly is 31.5, and certainly support is at the gap at 26.70 roughly, right there. So I would look for that wedge to break to the upside. If it does take out 31.5, this could go vertical to mid-30s, maybe high 30s. Pretty cool chart. Dbgi, very spiky. Pop, pullback, and real big pop and pullback, pop, pullback. And another explosive move, reversal, and down and forming a wedge. The large wedge, if it breaks out, and the key level is going to be about 590. We get above that, the stock will be back to 7 and 8 again. Denali, well, it worked as a swing when it broke out across this line and then backed off and tested and started to go again. I believe we gave it this in the high 50s and it made it to 80. But the pullback shows a bear flag under resistance. Be careful with this one. If Denali should run underneath 60, it could be right back to 49.50 again. I'm worried about that one. I'm worried about DQ, massive reversal, massive. What a day Thursday. We thought it was exploding, and it did. I think they made an acquisition. It ran all the way up to 90. And we first gave you this on the swing when it broke out here in the mid 60. So about a 25-point run, and then massive, massive downside reversal. You should be out of this one. Double bottom taken out Friday. At the very least, you should have stopped at 62. 58.50 last. Very dangerous. another example of a stock that had a monster run, pulled back on a falling wedge and broke out. It looked like it was going to run, and it did. Here's a breakout about 29.5. I think I put a swing on this, I have to check, but it made it to 47, flagged or coiled in here, looking like it was going to go even higher. And then the market pullback broke this one down along with others, of course. Nevertheless, unless this gets back above 33, it's in danger of a retest of 2021. MCore also breakout, run up to target, broke the rising flag right here across this double bottom. That was your breakdown, around 9.25. Made it down to 7.5 and then pop back. Yeah, until I see this go back above here, above 9.5 with volume, I'd be out of the stock temporarily. ENDP, what a move. I had to show you this breakout Friday. Look at the volume on the breakaway day. 40 million shares, up $1.25 and a half, and then it followed through with an engulfing reversal bar, That's your support now. Your stop's at 420, under 420. Your target is going to be 5 3/4, 6.5, and then some. But usually when they start like that, longer term results are good. Look at that cluster of volume. This should be a swing. I'll let you know. ESEA. Well, shipping stocks have done very well. This one, a monster move from 2 to 27. Now the pullback. It's still on the trend line, but any further damage here, stop under 17, 17.25. Upside target if it goes, retest to 27 and add 32.3. Ford, what amazing move for this stock, which for years did nothing, to go from 4 to 17, quadrupling, 300% gain in a year and change. But pretty interesting move. Obviously, a stop under 12 3/4 is warranted, but a breakout of this pattern, which does look like a quarterly pullback flag type consolidation, might run, I say might, 18 and 20 on an intermediate basis. FSR, explosive move off the low. This one came down in a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-wave decline, a quick decline. Over nearly 32 to under 10 in 2.5 months. Big reversal from under 10, making it up to 20 and 61 here, right at resistance, and then the pullback. Now the pullback is about 50% fib retracement, not far from support. That's my line in the sand, stop under 1440. Over 1685, I'd be looking for 1921 and more. Fubo, well, we put a swing on it when it cracked here, and when it broke out above 25, and it made it to my targets at 30 and 34. 35 was reached. Now the pullback. So it was a successful swing, but what do we do with it now? You should be out of it when you reach your targets, both of them. If that's a falling wedge and that's a 1-2, then 3 could yield big results, of course, depending on if the market cooperates. But I wouldn't be surprised if this gets back above 29, 29.5, then it runs into the low to mid 30s again. FUV, similar pattern, big run up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, with wave 4, a perfect wedge, an explosive move out of it from 12, 13 zone, 36.80. What a move in 5 weeks. Then massive decline, 36.80 to 7 and change. From 7, it rips back to 17.5 and then forms, I don't know, is that a head and shoulders? Or is it a wedge? Technicals look good. I'm going for the wedge. But we got to get over 18, and we do that. We're looking at 22 and 24. FWP went vertical from 7.5 to 20, tripling nearly. And then the pullback, which held, and that is now your support. I would say Friday's low is your support because at 14 3/4, it bounced to 17 and change. You cannot let it go underneath there. Let it back and fill or go higher. If it gets above 20, 24 is my target. GANX has been very disappointing after an initial pop and run. Reversal bar there really killed this stock in a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-wave decline. Nominal new lows here, but basing until and if it gets above 11, it's just not going anywhere. G-Box broke out of the wedge and ran up nicely from 7.5 to 16.5, more than doubling. But this one bar killed it. It's been in a downtrend since in a falling wedge. Key support now is down around 7, but near-term support 9. Targets at 12.5, 13.25, 16. DBTC, well, Bitcoin and Bitcoin-related issues are getting slam dunked, of course, but this one's gone from what, 5 to 59.8? That's right, the March low and the February high, so in 11 months, 11-fold. Double bottom breaks there, that's your stop, and it's been down ever since. Is it ready to turn around? Can't tell you yet. I can tell you where support is. There's a double bottom there at 24. And under 24, you risk 19 to 20. Careful. General Motors, like Ford, in a long-term uptrend, taking this one from 15 to 65. And now the pullback near support. Stop GM underneath 52.5. We can get above the weekly high, about 57.5, and then take out 59.5. We're in business. At that point, We look above 59.5. I would look for retest at 65 and then 72. GNK, another stock in the shipping group. Let's do this. I think that is actually your trend. If you connect the bottom, see it? This top here and that top line is more like this, with this being an overshoot. So I'm going with this. Resistance is there, 18.5. Support is certainly in this zone. Between 14.5 and 15.25. That's your support zone. Stop under that. Certainly above 18.5, you can get more aggressive. Above 20.5, you can go long for mid-20s. GOED, implosive, explosive, tested declining tops line, back off and form a falling wedge. It's still bullish until it breaks here. It's right on support. I really want to see this one hold here because I think the longer term is quite intriguing. And I'm looking for a move that goes to 4.5, 6.5. GRWG, after a long coil that broke out, I put a swing on it. Didn't do much. It reversed negatively and came down, broke support. It's that secondary support, and the big ones that double bottom here, you got to stop on at 33. Over 44, I think it has a chance of making another big move, but be careful with this one too. MX popped out here, formed a beautiful bull flag in December. I gave you a swing around the 6 3/4 range, and then it went, triple, 90 days. But now this, after running right up to resistance, it backed off, tried it again, backed off. It's right on support. This is as far as you want it to go. Quite frankly, underneath 12 3/4, it may start to really fall back to 10.5. Careful. But any move upwards and take out the 15.5, 617 zone of there, this thing could yield big numbers. We'll have to wait. INMD, great long-term call initially by our friend Neil that this stock, I believe, no, I'm sorry, Neil was at S-Wave. This stock had a beautiful IPO run from 13 to 58 and then got crushed in March like most stocks, but what a recovery. 13 to 112. It took a year and 3 months, but boy, did that look good. And at this point, I'd hold for the top under. I would stop with a hold under the 99 range. Okay. Up next is INOD, which is a great swing for us from here where it popped out and ran. We got to resistance up around 945 and then backed off. You can see that there's some big resistance up here, and if it holds this trend line, great. But I'd be concerned about any move underneath 6, 15, 20. It's kind of a double bottom there. That could break the trend line as well. But right now my target is 7 3/4, 8, and then 9.5. INSC had been a swing since it broke out back in, where was that? Oh, popped out and pulled back and then started to go right about there, about 4.5, 3/4. It subsequently has gone as triple to nearly 13 and pulled back. This current pullback low is my stop under 990. My target's 13 and 15. IPWR with a V bottom after a big pullback and then an explosive move off the low. Showed a run to 1885. Is that 1885 is your resistance, and that's my near-term target. I like the look of it. Careful on support at about 12.5. So ITOS popped and pulled back. We gave you a swing and then came down, filled the gap, and ran back up, and now it's got a platform. So either pops out of here, and that's a big, bottoming pattern, or it's going to break down. If it breaks down under 23.5, I want you stopping it. Above 26.5, I think the target's got to be a retest of 29 3/4, and then you're off to the races with a measured move somewhere around 33, 34. JK Solar in the Solar Group, falling wedge, breakout platform, explosive move, and now wedge. So it's a 1, 2, 3, 4. And if we get a fifth wave on JK Solar, it might very well get back up to retest the double top high. My target's now 80, low to mid 80s, let's put it that way. If it takes 65 out. On the other side, we have this. Any move below 51 might be a stopping point. Your support is 51 at 49.5 in that zone. Break that and you're out. Jamaica is very disappointing. After the V bottom, the run up and double bottom, it looked like an inverse head and shoulders. It started to break out. I gave you a swing on it. It didn't work. It went up a couple days and then rolled over and broke support. Your stopping point should have been right there at 25 3/4. It subsequently dropped down to 21.34. Tried to bounce and it's back to 22.65. It was down 91 cents Friday. I'm concerned this is going to go lower. Perhaps we're looking at something down here and that could be dangerous. All the way down into the low teens, so careful. KC, oh, some of my other lists, sorry. Copen, well, I like Copen long term, but the near term pattern shows that a falling channel was popped. But until it shows me the energy to get above at least, let's call it 7 3/4, 8 range with volume, I'm going to stay on the sidelines. If it does that, 9, 10, 12, all targets. LHDX, well, initially I gave this to you in May when it pulled back, but right about there, about 5 3/4. It then took several weeks to go sideways and before it exploded. And I got all the way up to 10.16. Secondary target would have been 12.5. It still is. After popping off the low on Monday, it's consolidated a little mini wedge here. And then popped out on Friday. So then the good news is it was up 11%, increased. I need to see this get above here. My targets are 10 and 12.5. Luckin Coffee, well, breakaway gap, run up to resistance to the double top and then pull back. Right now it's forming some sort of wedge. I can't tell if it's going to break out or down, but obviously stops under 11.5, about 15.5. You might see 18.5 and 22. LSCC's a dynamite looking semiconductor stock with a fantastic long-term trend. The low rate having gone from 5.5 to 55, 59, 58. The last few months show consolidation and a platform. Nice bounce off support during the week and then the run up. That was Monday. If I can get this above, you can see multiple tops in here. Watch this next week for a move over 54.5. Then your target's at 58.9, and then we're off to the races. Luna, big snapback out of a multi-month coil. Thursday being an exceptional day, up $1.50 on 457,000, the biggest volume on an up day since April when it broke out. So maybe we can get that to extend, but there is resistance just above there. The $12 range is going to be tough to get to. You get through 12, 13, and 15 are targets. Well, I'm not crazy about the Bitcoin related stocks. They all look like they're in downtrends. Mara is no exception, but I will point out that Mara and Riot both reversed on Tuesday. We had a gap on Wednesday and a 3-day flag. If I can get Mara over, say, 26, you might see 29, 32, etc. But careful under Friday's low. Anything under 23 3/4 might be a warning sign. If it doesn't have a V bottom with a breakaway gap in a platform, if that breaks down, it's a different story. The declining top line and secondary resistance. Yeah, I would say target to be 28.9 for starters. MGI supposed to move Wednesday and a nice hold so far. The target's now at 14 and 18. Nice trend underway and a beautiful coil just broke out with volume. MOXC, well, folks, a perfect example of why you stop things. Here's a 5-minute chart. I still told you guys repeatedly that nothing to worry about unless it took out this prior low at 21.85. Certainly stop under 21. Even if you stopped under 20.5, you avoided a slide down to 13.85. Now, I don't know why this dropped this much in half on Friday. It's 8 million shares, but obviously a breakdown of the trend line. So you have to keep your stops in place. MRIN, huge move, came down, looked like it's reversed on Wednesday, and then came right back down again, very dangerous. If this breaks here, you might see the stock come down all the way down there. And so my next target on the downside would be 6 and 5 If it doesn't hold 750, 60, you can put a stop on it there. Dangerous. And I wouldn't be overly involved with it until I see at least take out 10.5, 11 with volume. What can I say about mRNA? Maybe it's chart of the year. When COVID started in earnest back in February of last year, it was $18 stock, and now it's 350. 349.45, closing near the high for the day, going away high for the year, high near all-time high. And yet when I draw a trend line, it might be something like that, a little bit more conservative. If we're being conservative on this trend line, we're looking at 450, another 100 points. But it's extended short term, and I would stop this one under there for sure. On the 290.92, you're out. Don't want to risk a bigger pullback. NCR, great long-term chart, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then this consolidation may not be done, but it is a fifth wave consolidation. I would stop under Friday's low on the 41.5, targeting 50, 51 if it wants to rebound back. NIO, well, a lot of these electric cars and electric vehicle manufacturers from China have rebounded beautifully from the May low. This one got down to just under 31. It made it up to 55. However, the pullback has gotten it right back to a key support level. And then the bounce. What I would look for now, if this gets above 47.5, I'd say go for it. 52 and 55 targets, maybe even as high as 60. But until I see that, keep a stop underneath 40. NNOX trying to rebound after doing a 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm worried about a fifth wave down. It's possible it's a V bottom with the right-handed extension, and then that's your platform. So you either got to stop under 20, 24.75 is support right now. If we can take out last week's high, about 29-ish, you might see 33, 34. NRX with a monster move, literally from 11 to 30 in 2 days, up into a resistance zone here. So it may have a difficult time and it may need to back and fill. But I like the overall look, a huge volume off the lows. So let's see what it does going forward. Momentum could take it to 38 in the next few days. Neuro, similar, explosive move, 3 to 39, 12, 13-fold move in 3 days, and then a pullback. A little concerned about the way it ran up and then pulled back. You might see a retest of 15.5. Below that, it'll gap fill at 12. Careful on this one. OCGN, well, not what to say about this stock. It's been a long consolidation after a monster move from December to March. Tried again in April. It did move nicely from 5.25 to a high of 16, tripling there. But now this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is a truncated fifth wave. Keep an eye on it. It might be flagging. I would do nothing with this stock until I see over 7.75 with volume. Even then, your targets are 9 and 11. Semiconductor OIIM and a really nice long-term move that took this stock literally from under $1 to 11, more than tenfold. Then broke the pattern but moved sideways. Look, it's been holding this area for a long time, but you can stop this one under 6. There's a declining top line comes in and a moving average, say in the 7.05 area. We get through that, you might see the stock get back up to, I would say, a test of 7.575 is in order. That's right through here. Then you're on your way. Oil sector, Oxy breaks down and snaps back to resistance. Careful here because that is key resistance, and if it doesn't break out, we're looking at lower levels and possibly to test 21, 22 again. PAVM, I like this long-term chart, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a pullback, but that's held. It's a no-brainer stop for me under here, say 490. But any move that takes us back above 7 could yield 8 and 9. Long-term chart says if this continues, this angle of ascent does, $10 stock maybe has, so it's double maybe. PDSB exploded in May, ran up to my target zone. That was a swing. I think we put it out right there about 6 and change. It made it to 13, doubling, and then the pullback coils in play. I'm not so sure what this was showing me, but it does look like narrowing near the apex. Best case scenario, a pop above 10.575 next week and a run back 13 for starters. Use this low at 8 3/4 as a stopping point. Perion was a great swing for us from the September period when it was 5 3/4 where we gave it to you. Eventually in March reaching 28 and change, 350, 400% gain, and now the pullback got it to a little wedgie there, popped out to resistance and backed off. No question, there's my stop now. Under this pullback low. 16 3/4 gets me out, targeting 22.5 and then 24.25 or more, possibly even as high as 26.7. Wait for it. Plug, well, acted well when it broke out, and we have a swing on it that worked, and then made another high before it reversed to 36. From 36, it dropped to 25. 24 3/4 to be exact. This bounce has me concerned on low volume. If plug doesn't get going soon, and I need it above quickly, above 28.5, or move on to 24 3/4 can bring it back into the 19 to 21 zone. POWW is a swing when it broke out. It reached target number 1 quickly, but then died. Obvious supports right there. Stop under 6 3/4. This one needs a move over the weekly high of 785. You do that, target 8 3/4 and 10 3/4. PRPH, interesting chart. Beautiful long-term run up there, and then a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave decline. Built a little base, popped out and pulled back. It got to resistance and backed off. But look at this move last week. Every day up. 570, not a lot. To 758, not too bad. $1.80. 25, 30% pop. And now we're about to test this range. You get through this 8 3/4 range, and we can see a stock in 11, 12 range. I love the look of this chart. Peloton, big inverse head and shoulders up against resistance. If this is going to make any progress, it's really going to have to make a move above 127.8. Then your target's 142 and 155. QRHC, what a nice chart, making new all-time highs a week ago before I pull back. If it can hold this wedge without breaking it down, then we got something, an extension could take it a 9. But I'm concerned that if it does break down, you need to stop this one under 620. Well, last week QBT popped and I put a swing on it and I extended for a day and then backed off big time. So, and this is a thin stock, so we got to be careful. And I would say under Friday's low, under about 7.5 in that area, right underneath that zone where it's where I stop it. Notice the breakout point and the pullback retest on lower volume. Not bad, but it's got to show me 10.5 and 12.5 for targets if it goes. Rail, long-term consolidation, a beautiful uptrend, holding a triple bottom, obvious stop right there. Under 460, you're out. Targets are 6 3/4 and 8. We get through that, it's a home run. African oil stock, Reconnaissance Energy Africa, beautiful long-term chart and rising channel. Just wanted to show it to you. It's thin, it's bulletin board. It may go again, target's 15, but I'd have to stop this one under 8.5. Riot, just like Mara, popped off the multiple session pullback lows and stalled right there. So this one's got to get above 30 for me to be interested. And we do not want it below Friday's low of 27. Keep an eye on it. Saba, obviously one of my picks of the year. In December at 8 and change, it went up to 117, pulled down around a new all-time high on Thursday, 130 from a pullback low in April of 31, up almost 100 points. Is it extended? Of course. Is it at the top of the channel? Yeah, but it's at all-time highs. And it can very well blow out on short covering. Seed is an anomaly. This kind of volume, and pull back and then another snapback and pull back and then another snapback, only to pull back again and close negative on the day. That has me very concerned. I'm not happy with this. I love the long-term look. I love the long-term story, but I don't like the short-term look yet. Until it gets over 12 with volume. Sketches with a wonderful move off the March low of last year when it dipped down at 17. It's made it up to the mid-50s. And the breakout Friday in a 4-day run, this one got up to 56 and backed up to 54. Still a beautiful breakout. And if it extends, my target is 59.60. SPWR, concerned about this one too. It was one of my picks last year, and it ran from the 20s into the 50s. Put another swing when it broke out here. I think it was 24.5 range. It ran up to 31 and change, and then pulled back. I'm not happy about that as well. That's your key support. Stop under 21.5. SUP consolidating for 6 weeks after the big run up. Still a nice looking pattern. That'd be a bull flag. Target 11.75. Tenneco gave you a swing when it popped out. It ran beautifully. Got from 13.5, 3/4 all the way up to 22.5, and then came down. Did a 50% fib retracement and bounced, but you got to stop this one on 15. If you see it above 1790, the volume right through there, you might see a quick move to 20. Then targeting 22. UTS long-term hold and swing trade from back here when it was 17.75. In November, it made it up to 30. Came down from the bear flag, and now it's got a large coil. Massive top, maybe. Don't let this get on the 21.25. Stop there. Verb exploded, pulled back, and then popped Friday before pulling back again. It's an interesting chart. Looks like a baseline breakout. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I can get a fifth wave, should at least retest 4, maybe get to 5. Polaris, South American, the VLRS, South American Airlines, has gone from 3 to 24. Doesn't look like it's done, does it? My target, 29.30. Visto, on support. It was a swing from there when it broke out. From the 22.3 range, it made it up to 47 and change. Now it's on support. Careful here, stop on the 37.5. Vuzi back down again after a huge run. This was one of our better swing trades too, believe it or not. When it broke out here at 5.5, I gave this to you. And within 4 months, it reached 32 and change. 7-fold increase in 5-6 months. Now this is a 1, 2, and this is 3. And if it gets under this triple bottom, you're going to see 10, 11 again. Careful with this one. Workhorse, another example of a pop pullback, and then it ran, but it stalled from the bull wedge and broke out again, but it could not get through that 18.25 range. Finally, the rollovers took out stops. I told everyone that 13.5 was support, and you could stop under that. It might fill the gap, which it did. It bounced, but it couldn't get back above resistance, which was right there, and it rolled back down again. This is vulnerable now to 9.25, even 7.5 again. Wrap, what can I tell you? I popped out of the wedge. We had a nice swing from 5.75 to almost 10, reaching 9.80. Big pullback, back to 6 and change. Until this gets above 7.30, I would do nothing with it. U.S. Steel, another example of an infrastructure stock that was doing very well. That came down in a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Trying to bounce, I would stop this one under 20.5. It needs to get over 25.25 to get going again. If so, 29, 30, and 33, 4 are targets. XPEV, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave decline after an explosive move that saw this come all the way up to 74, back down to 22.3. Run up to mid to high 40s and platforms. 100% stop under 36.75. Your near-term target would be a retest of 48.9. If it gets through that with energy, we may see mid to high 50s. Zedge, great swing here when it broke out in January. I gave you a swing around 6.75, 7. It made it up to almost a triple, just under 20. This pullback low is my stopping point now. Under 15.25, I'm out. If it makes it above that 20 range, 1990, I would look for low 20s. And that's to look at the longs. I got some shorts to go over. One second, please. Okay, I'm concerned about Continental Resources and all the oil stocks, but this one in particular broke channel and bounced up support. If that's a kissback and it rolls over, this may be headed for 25. Keep an eye on this one on the short side. Yeah, this is not my short list, folks. I'm not sure what happened. So my apologies to you. One moment. One moment. Almost there. Yeah. Well, my apologies, folks. For some reason, I'm not sure what it is. My short list has disappeared. I have to re-examine that. It might issue a secondary, another tech trader swing short or short review list. I can go over some of them. I know that overstock is a stock I'm concerned about. You take a look at that, snap back to resistance after breaking down. If that trend line gets broken, if you see the stock under, if overstock takes out 76.5, I would go short into the mid 60s and even mid 50s. Yeah, there's a problem here, and I'm not sure why. So we're gonna have to forego the short side today. I'll have to look into this. My apologies, folks. It's just not populating my list for some reason. Try it one more time. Nope, not there. So that'll be it for today, folks. I hope you guys glean some good stuff from the long list and from the technical indicators. I also want to just go over something else with you that I didn't cover. The SMH and the ETFs. Take a look at the recovery on the SMH, a dramatic one when it looked like it was about to break down. You can see that if this goes above the resistance level, the whole market goes ballistic. That's an important area we're at right now. And SMH on the 247 has indicated this market goes a lot lower. The LBU is having a big problem. Biotechs in general are. So keep an eye on this one, because anything under here, anything under this level, under say 55, we have a problem too. So you know what we look for on SMH and the LABU. Financials are no picnic. They did bounce nicely, so we have an opportunity here. But this is a key area for the market, no question. When you break down and say the market looks like that, if that's a 1-2, and this is even a semblance of a 3-3, 1, 2, 3, and this is 4, we still may have downside if the market breaks down. We break out above this zone. This is key for me. If the financials break out above 113, 112.5, then I think the market's going to be great. And if the SMH gets above 264, and even if the LABU can just get above the recent highs, let's just say above here, this is a big number. The moving average is trying to cross over right around 67. So resistance on the LABU is 65 and 67. Those are big numbers to watch for next week. Also, the declining top line right there, if taken out, would be very useful for this market. But right now, this is still in a downtrend, but it is trying to base out here. If we form a V bottom with the right-handed extension, hold that level. So the key for LABU is 55 and a quarter or half area. Don't let it get beneath that, because then it's very vulnerable to a deeper slide. It means something like this, and that would be ugly, folks. Ugly. 43, 30 again. I mean, we saw where the stock went in March. Kind of a choppy presentation this week. My apologies, but it is what it is, and I appreciate your cooperation and patience with us this weekend as I try to reconstruct my box of shorts list. Not sure what happened. My apologies. HB out. Have a great weekend.